in answer to Charles's question, it's a good question. David Cobb had gotten hurt. I don't know if it was during fall camp last year or during the season, but my understanding is that really slowed his progress. Michael Myslinski is going to have a chance, I think, at center. We'll see if Matt Fagan, who's a former walk-on, I think Fagan's on scholarship now. If he wasn't this past year, he most certainly will be. It'll probably be a battle between Myslinski and Fagan. The offensive line, we have spent the majority of the show talking about other matters, but this is an intriguing battle this spring because you're losing maybe the best player in the country. You most certainly could argue he was the best player in the Big Ten. Not saying I'm going to be dogmatic about it, but Tyler Linderbaum is a superstar at that position at this level. People don't realize how good he is as a center. Iowa fans do, but people across the country don't realize how good Tyler Linderbaum was and is. So losing him's a huge blow, Mark, and he's the anchor of that line. I believe he was Spencer Petrus's roommate. So some chemistry potentially lost if Spencer ends up being the starting quarterback. We'll see what happens with Myslinski. We know Leighton Jones, the new commit, won't be here till 23. They expect him to play center, but he ain't getting here this year. So who else is a candidate? I don't really know the answer to that. Kyler Schott moves on as well. I thought it was intriguing, Mark, at one point, and I don't know if this changed, but Kyler Schott told the media that he wasn't really, I don't want to misquote him on this, so I want to be careful how I word this, but basically in summary of what he said was that he wasn't ever really approached about returning for a super senior year, which I find interesting. He was undersized. I don't think he's really on many draft boards. I guess I haven't looked that far, but with him being gone, that's just one less plug to fill in there. And they struggled mightily those first few games. Remember, he got injured bailing hay prior to the season, and they missed him those first few games, and they struggled a bit without him. My understanding, I'm trying to remember when he came back. I remember we ran into, when we did our college football, that was fun, by the way, the game day coverage from outside Jack Trice Stadium. Did you enjoy that, Mark?
Oh, it was phenomenal. I loved it. I just thought... And we didn't know each other quite as well, of course, then. And I just thought, man, on one hand, I thought this guy's crazy. He's out there at 5 o'clock in the morning in the dark. Like when you posted your first video, which I got to say, I did not watch these live. I was up at 9 o'clock in the morning myself. But yeah, I was not there for you at 5 a.m. or whatever time it was. You posted that first video. And until other people entered the frame, I thought, is he out there by himself? Is he doing this by himself? Is there nobody else out there? But those were exceptional. Those were tremendous. I half thought you were crazy, and then I reasoned, you know what? I would do the same thing and have done the same thing. So I guess.
Oh yeah,
we're cut from the same cloth.
I greatly enjoyed it, and I wonder how many steps I will. I wish I had a Fitbit on that day because I had to have done 1 million steps. No, that was fun, but we ran into Kyler Schott's girlfriend. And so I remember her telling us that he was going to be back. So he either came back week 2 or week 3. So he wasn't out more than a couple games, but they did struggle there early. Even that Indiana game, like the big run early by Tyler Goodson broke things loose, but that was largely, that win was predicated on an offense in Indiana. It was just terrible. And that bore itself out the rest of the season. Michael Penix, it started that first, thinking back to that first drive for Indiana, it was a disaster. And I felt bad for Penix because, boy, what a year he had in 2020. But my point is, Schott was a key cog, and the offensive line wasn't great the rest of the year, but it did improve when he came back. So where does Justin Britt's development go? Is he a guy who can be an every down guy? He hasn't proven to be that yet. They need him to step up and be an every down guy at guard. Cody Ince is a guy that I was high on last year, and I think he suffered from some injuries this year, but he's going to be a senior next year. They need him. He's a big guy. He's probably going to stay at guard, would be my guess. He's ran some at tackle during practice, but they need him to step up. He's a 5th-year guy, Mark. He needs to really, hopefully he can stay healthy, but take the bull by the horns and secure a spot. Connor Colby, I don't know what his, I don't know how to answer the question completely from Charles because I don't know what Connor Colby, what his future is. Does he end up sliding out to tackle? Is that possible at 6'6", 300? That I certainly think it would be. If they slide him out to tackle, perhaps at right, are you confident enough in Mason Richmond at left tackle and Connor Colby at right? That means you've got, Richmond will be a third-year guy, but a redshirt sophomore and then a true sophomore anchoring you on the outside. They did that with Tristan Wirfs and Alaric Jackson, and it was a bit of a learning curve. But boy, both those guys ended up working out tremendously well. They're both in the league now. Tristan Wirfs maybe the best tackle in the league. And maybe you probably disagree with that, Mark, but he's one of the best tackles in the league. I think we can agree upon that. Well, I said it, and then I realized, who is the best tackle in the league, Mark? It's probably not Wirfs, but he's right up there.
Yeah, he's right up there. I was not ready to disagree with it.
Okay.
Because I don't have a firm opinion on that. I know that he's one of the best. Absolutely.
Tom Brady did not look good in that playoff game without Tristan Wirfs. And it was a big part of that. If he doesn't have protection off that edge, he's not himself. But anyways, will Colby and Richmond progress enough in the spring? There's a lot of development that needs to happen. And some of this is going to happen in the summer. I'm sure there's some strength and conditioning taking place during the winter, but for the most part, summers for lifting weights and hitting the weight room hard and getting bigger and stronger. So some of this will occur there because you need that. I mean, there were some fundamental issues that cropped up last year along the line. And I am by no means an offensive line guru. I said that when I did my breakdown of Leighton Jones this past week. When he committed as a center. I mean, he's never played center, Mark. He's played tight end, defensive end, and they're recruiting him at center. And I love doing recruiting reactions, but I always preface everything I say with, look, I am by no means an offensive line guru. What I can tell you is that Kirk Ferentz he's an offensive line coach. And he's got George Barnett, who's also an offensive line coach, who seems to be really liked around the program. I know, he's new and I don't know how he's perceived from everybody from the outside looking in, but he seems to be liked by people like Leighton Jones and people he's recruiting. That's good. That's a positive. But they need to be able to develop guys like Colby and Mason Richmond. David Cobb is kind of the dark horse because I think I'd have to look back at the rankings. Him and Colby were neck and neck as far as the recruiting rankings coming into that 21 class. And if my memory serves me correctly, they both enrolled early. So this will be their second spring. That's a big deal. And if David Cobb is healthy, perhaps you compete for playing time on the outside, or perhaps they see him at least initially playing on the inside. Jack Plum's another guy, Mark. A lot of fans threw in the towel on Jack Plum and Nick DeYoung during the season. I remember one comment. I don't know why this comment sticks out. If you're the one who made the comment, I'm not talking about you, but anybody in the chat, Mark, shame on you because you shouldn't throw in the towel on a kid this soon. But Nick DeYoung, who was, I think, a second, maybe third year guy, I have to look at I know he's a junior this next year. I can't remember if he redshirted, but somebody had commented midseason, I never want to see Nick DeYoung play another snap at tackle at Iowa. And that's just, I understand the frustrations when you're not protecting a quarterback who's a statue in Spencer Petras, but there's a reason they're playing him so early. You could make the argument that's because they don't have anything better behind him, but they like something in Nick DeYoung, Mason Richmond. Those are young guys, and for them to get playing time and infringe on playing time from an older guy like Plum or even Ince, that's a positive. So yeah, the young guys, it's going to be cool to see. I'm high. I was high on David Cobb when he came into high school. I wasn't as high on Connor Colby, but he sure looks like he's a guy who can perhaps slide out to tackle, and they need help out there, especially if they're going to roll with Spencer Petras. He's never going to be a real mobile guy. That's just not going to happen. Alex Padilla can offset a bit of those pass protection struggles, but if you can get a tackle, especially on that right edge where they struggled primarily. I mean, Mason Richmond had his moments as well, but if they can get a really solid piece there at right tackle, I think Spencer can. We saw him in 2020. Spencer didn't have a bad year in 2020. He had a average year after those first two games. When he was being protected, when the run game was working, their offense was okay. It was not great. I wouldn't even say it was good. It was mediocre to good. This last year, it was bad. We know that. So, but the offensive line is a big key to offsetting some of the problems at quarterback.